So, good evening, and hi, and welcome to everyone. Um, Let us, get started with the main part of the session. um, so, Hi. This is our third week of Be Your Own Therapist, organized by the good folks at Tutin Nobiling. It's nice to see some returning faces, and it's nice also to see a few returning names, even if I don't see your face on the Zoom call today. I'm not sure. Sasha, have I seen you before? No. So it's also good to see new face and new smile. So whether you are new or returning, I like to start my sessions with just a little bit of review, also setting the context, where we come from, and then we can take it to the next step. So the very first session, we were talking about, so why do we want to be our own therapist? Why do we want to learn about Dharma? Why do we want to meditate? Why do we want to, wake up and get out of bed in the morning? And we had sort of examined as a hypothesis, um, we still are examining, but point being that everything that we have done, everything that we are doing, everything that we will do in the future is kind of serving this elusive quest to try to gain some happiness and well-being, as well as to avoid suffering. And then, in general, everything we've tried in our life, whether it be, playing as a child, going out to party, going to work, trying to find a partner, buying a new house, new car, anything we've tried to do, even those negative actions. I hope you guys haven't, but if you've ever, uh, cheated on a romantic partner, if you've ever, cheated, in a business dealing or lied to someone, or um, yeah, even these negative actions at that time, we thought that that was going to bring us the best outcome. Uh, yeah. So now when we get into Dharma, or we start to reflect more deeply on our lives, we see that a lot of our efforts have been directed toward the outside in arranging the world as in a way that would bring us more comfort or happiness, well-being. But we see that although the outside world does play a role in our happiness and well-being, the more important thing is our inner world and our mind. Because even if we have all of the most comfortable surroundings, everyone is praising us, we have a great reputation, all the money in the world, then if our mind is disturbed, we can't enjoy those things. And furthermore, sad to say, even in our personal relationships, which can bring a lot of joy and happiness, well, if our mind is disturbed, and we get angry at our friends or romantic partners, then we can destroy those relationships, and they won't want to spend time with us anymore. Mm. So we're saying, even from a worldly perspective, then to take care of the mind, to make sure that our mind is emotionally balanced, is going to be very important. Then, of course, in the Buddhist concept, we're taking it even further, and we see that these actions that we undertake, they create karmic imprints that then are stored in our mind, which then ripen in the future as experiences of happiness or suffering. Okay, so that was session one. Then last week, we were then saying, okay, if it is the case that the mind is primary in determining our happiness, then how do we deal with the mind? What do we do? How do we transform the mind so we can have lasting happiness and well-being? And so then we came into the kind of main technology that the Buddhists use to transform the mind, and that is meditation. And so we talked about two main kinds of meditation. One which probably you are more familiar with, that is the placement meditation, where we place our mind on one object and not let it, or try to not let it wander off. And then we just mentioned this other kind of meditation called analytic meditation, where we use our faculty of the intellect and analysis to try to gain insight into reality as it is. Yeah. And so then I also, we went through a particular kind of meditation of mindfulness of the breath, where we try to place our mind on the breath and then not have it wander off to other objects. And then I sort of left you with this thought that although it's so good and sort of calming to the mind, brings us a lot of peace, to stay concentrated on one object, because our normal tendency is to be distracted into all sorts of they call it the monkey mind. Well, that in itself isn't really taking the meditation to its kind of fullest potential, right? So here we were using this is a kind of training where, although we're focused on the breath and another thought comes, we try not to get carried away by that thought, right? So when we apply it to kind of disturbing emotions that arise, how they develop, how they arise and get stronger is, well, first there's a small thought. He did this to me, she did that to me, they said this to me, how dare they do this? And then if we let those sort of mental story continue, then the anger arises and it gets stronger to the point where, if we're not careful, then it sort of impels us to engage in a sort of harmful action of using our body or our speech in sort of retaliation for what the other person has done. So the thing that we have to do on the day-to-day level, right, is not just think that our practice is to, meditate for 15 minutes or half an hour in the morning. Maybe we do that again before we go to bed. And while we do that, we experience some peace. But actually, throughout the day, watch our minds, watch what's going on. And then I mentioned this Shantideva advice that when we see that we're about to act with anger or jealousy or self-cherishing or any kind of affliction like that, then we remain as a piece of wood, right? And we, watch our mind and then sort of refrain from negative behavior. Okay. Those are two sessions thus far. Okay.
Venerable?
Yes.
There's a question from Deb. She was wondering, how would you apply this same sort of technology if rather than the samsaric stuff coming from my mind and my actions and my feelings, but how about when it comes from my body because of illness?
Okay. So it's a kind of similar type of principle. Okay, so yeah, there's actually a lot to say here, right? So there's the sense of what we do during the meditation session. Okay. And so what I was saying is we're using this as a mental training. Okay. We're using this to develop a new habit of the mind. And so, okay, let's just take a more basic example of the, body sensations. So normally, hold on. Okay, normally, small example. We might be sitting in meditation, and then we have the itchy sensation in the face. Okay, so a lot of times when this happens, our natural tendency is to scratch, right? It's very reactive. Okay, so uh, what we would try to do here is just observe and make whatever bodily sensation, make that the object of meditation. Okay, so we talked about the two kinds of mindfulness meditation, or Vipassana meditation that came out. These two traditions that came out of Burma in the last century. So one by Goenkaji, um, where yeah, using purely the bodily sensations and then developing this kind of sense of equanimity. So whether the sensation is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, then sort of be unmoved by whatever is going on in the body, right? So in that sense, um, yeah, we can be aware of the itching or the pain in the knee or the, um, our breathing is constricted or anxiety or whatever it is in the body, we can be aware of that and get out of the story. Okay. Um, yeah. As we do that in the meditation, okay, we're developing this kind of resiliency of the mind that we don't um, have to react, right? Now, the other Vipassana technique that came out of the great Burmese master Mahasi Sayadaw with the labeling, okay, we can then just label, okay, that's itching, that's a hot sensation, that is pain, that is constricted breath, or whatever might be going on in the body, we label it. And this gives us some distance between ourself and our experience, right? Okay, so I'll admit something. Now, many teachers, as they teach this, they say, oh yeah, if you have some pain, um, pain in the knee, just watch it. And there's almost a little bit of a implication that if you just watch the breath, or sorry, watch the pain will go away, right? Now, in my case, I think that's a very tricky way of explaining things, right? So the point to me in this kind of training is that we uh, become sort of okay with whatever is going on in the present moment. Because otherwise, we're sitting, we have a pain in the knee, and then we think, oh, okay, I'm just going to watch it. But then in like 30 seconds, if it doesn't go away, we're like, hey, I'm watching you. Why aren't you going away? And then that is already showing there is some aversion going on that itself is uh, you know causing disturbance in the mind. Okay. Now, what's tricky, and sorry, this answer is becoming very long. What's tricky is that we have to sort of bear in mind there's what we do in the cushion, and then there's what we do outside of the cushion. Okay. And of course, even in the meditation session, if your knee is sore, if your leg is falling asleep, then at a certain point, okay, first just watch it, yes, because it's a training, right? And those kind of vivid sensations, it's good just to put our mind in different situations where we're trying to develop this sort of balanced, non-reactive, they call it non-judgmental awareness. Okay. So we're aware of what's going on in our body and mind, but we're not judging good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, because those are the seeds of it's a very short step from labeling something as unpleasant to having aversion to it. Okay. Right. So that's why they try to emphasize this thought of equanimity, right? It's okay. Everything's okay, you know? Mm, like that. Okay. But although it's okay, right? Uh, it's also okay not to have the pain. So if from your sitting position you have like you're in lotus posture and you know you're not that flexible, actually you kind of force yourself to get into lotus posture, but it's now very painful after a few minutes. Yes, you can then move your body posture, move your legs, but do it in a mindful way, right? Okay. Now, okay, now we're outside of the meditation session. Okay, so by all means, you know don't take this practice too far and, say, okay, I'm ill. I'm just gonna watch, right? Also, by all means, go to the doctor, take care of yourself, you know, uh, eat well, sleep well, like, exercise, do all these things to take care of your body. Okay. Um, yes, we, uh, yeah, the Buddha wants you to be healthy. I want you to be healthy. And in general, we take care of our body because it's with this body, right, that we are practicing Dharma. I'm not sure we'll get time to talk about this in more detail, but the kind of first topic in the Lamrim, or the stages of the path to enlightenment, is talking about this precious human rebirth, right? And so this life that we have, because we have a body and mind in human form in this day and age, where we've met with the Dharma teachings and have interest in doing and having enough sort of intellectual capacity to put the teachings into practice, that is so precious because we can use this, right, our lives, to make utmost progress along the path to authentic happiness and enlightenment. Okay, so um, we have to take care of our body. We have to take care of our health. That's not seen as just a worldly concern, right? But as Deb mentioned in the question, right? This last thing, learning to live with something, that's also good. Okay, so it can be the case that even we do the best we can to try to manage a chronic illness. Well, sometimes there uh, many conditions can't be fully cured, right? But if that's the case, then mm, by having this mind that's just accepting of everything, then that can at least help us not to have more mental uh, pain and suffering and anxiety, although we have the physical condition. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you for the question. Mm. All right. So that's where we are. Okay. So now what I wanted to do this week is continue on with a little bit more tools, and this week talk about the kind of analytic meditation. Okay, analytic meditation. Um, the analytic meditation, using the intellect to mm, analyze, investigate a certain phenomena, is very much emphasized in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, um, especially the Gelugpa tradition. So, let me do a screen share. Okay, so I think I shared, yeah, I shared this the first week, right? The misery, they went toward misery itself, although wishing to have happiness like the enemy. They ignorantly destroy it. Even those who wish to attain happiness and overcome suffering will wander with no aim if they do not comprehend the secret of the mind, principle Dharma. Okay, so there is this thought that's coming up again and again that our suffering, right, is fundamentally coming from sort of our own ignorance, right? Ignorance in the sense, well, there's different levels. Well, one is a kind of ignorance that our positive and negative actions that they will ripen as experiences of suffering or happiness in the future. We're largely ignorant of that. And so we're very loose in our behavior. Mm. And then, of course, there's a deeper level of ignorance on the what they call the ultimate level of reality about how ourselves and our phenomena exist. Mm, mm. Maybe uh, we can say just a little bit about that, but we sort of impute a mm, a mode of existence onto our world, ourselves, tables, chairs, other people, beauty, ugliness, everything in our kind of world. We're imputing a fantasized uh, mode of existence above and beyond what is actually there. And in so doing, just as a small analogy, we say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? But when we go through life, we actually behave as if the beauty was there established in the object. And therefore, because the beauty is there in the object, we want to possess, we want to cling, we have attachment, we have greed. But actually, uh, all phenomena, and this you'll hear a lot, is merely imputed by the mind, merely labeled by the mind. Okay. So, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche was very fond of saying, that the way that phenomena exist is so subtle that as if it is as if they don't exist, right? But they do. They exist, but it's very, 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 very subtle. Hmm. Anyway, so these two types of ignorance about karma, cause and effect, and ignorance about how phenomena exist, they are the kind of uh, main types of ignorance that uh, keep us bound in samsara and have us experience various kinds of suffering over and over again. Okay. So because of that, because um, ignorance is seen as the kind of root cause of our problems, then this other type of meditation, analytic meditation, where we use analysis to try to discover and then familiarize ourselves with reality as it is, that is emphasized. Okay. All right. So here we go. A lot of words here. Okay. So normally, yes, we talk about ignorance being the kind of root affliction, but sometimes you'll also see the so-called three poisonous minds. So that would be ignorance, yes, anger, and attachment. Okay. So what I wanted to do for the rest of this session is give a little bit practical tools, right? We're talking about being your own therapist, right? Be your own therapist. So we need to know how to deal with anger and attachment as they come up in our lives again and again and again. And then what I thought is next week we can maybe contextualize this. And I've already just touched on this, the words Lamrim, or stages of the path to enlightenment. But I think, next week we can give a little bit broader overview of the kind of full path. Okay, but for now, here is the kind of traditional, presentation of how we can deal with anger, right? And so I've already mentioned when anger is arising, right? Then we want to practice the kind of mindfulness where we get out of the story and instead we talk about or we try to connect with where is anger manifesting in the body. Okay, I'm feeling some heat, I'm feeling shortness of breath, I'm feeling hot, whatever it is. Okay, all right. Now, after it has sort of died down, that is the time to use the kind of analytic side, right? And it's sort of like a post-game analysis, right? Right. So, I don't know, using a sports analogy, right? After, the highlights, right? Or the coaches will then review the film from the game, right? And say, oh, you see here, this person, they missed the block, or yeah, this person, they should have been, covering this person, and whatever it is, right? They sort of analyze and then they say, okay, so then in the future we have to know that we're going to do this or that. Okay, all right. So in the same way, when we start to talk about anger, okay, most important thing, right? Before we can talk about how to apply the antidote, then we have to see its faults, right? So there's this medical analogy that comes up again and again, but uh, like when you go into a doctor, they don't just say, okay, let's let's perform a surgery, right? First they run diagnosis, okay, and then they identify, the kind of state, causes are at play, be they a virus or a tumor or whatever it is, and then they prescribe a course of treatment, right? And you know, yeah, in the same way, we have to sort of remind ourselves about the faults of anger, why anger is something we don't want to allow, right, in our mind. Okay, so normally we have the invisible faults of anger and the visible faults of anger. So this one, this is talking, the invisible faults is more on the sense of karma, combining it, right, with the Buddhist view of karma. So projects its own fruitions. Okay, that means ripening as experiences of suffering. Okay, so when we get angry, then if it's not held in check, we will then harm, or we might even kill, or yeah, we can do all sorts of things when we're in the throes of anger, and then we will experience the ripening effect of that in the future. And then the second fault of anger, then it is said that anger actually destroys our previously accumulated virtue. Okay, that's why some of you might have heard Shantideva say, there's no sin like anger, or there's no fault like anger, and therefore there is no virtue like patience. Patience being the antidote to anger. Okay, so normally, like we talk about other afflictions like attachment or greed or jealousy, yeah, they can then impel us to do negative actions, right? So with attachment, we can steal, we can cheat on our partners, so forth. Those will have negative right-thing effects. But anger is unique in the sense that previously accumulated virtue then gets weakened, even destroyed, depending on the strength of the anger. Okay, so since those are invisible and those are tied in with the Buddhist view of karma, then if you haven't sort of learned about that, or maybe you've learned about it a little bit and you're still sort of having some questions and doubts about it, that's okay. Okay, we're not being dogmatic here, but my job is to present the traditional Buddhist view. So we do talk about that. But even leaving that aside, then these visible faults of anger, you don't have to take on any beliefs, right? You can just experience or recall your own experience. When was the last time you got angry, right? Then, even in that moment, you did not experience a peaceful and good mind. The joy and happiness that you had previously perish, and you cannot regain them. You cannot sleep well, and you weaken the stability wherein your mind stays calm. When you have great hatred, even those for whom you formerly cared forget your kindness and even kill you. Um, that one is coming from Shantideva. So it's true. It's true. Um, hopefully, yeah, it's rare, but it is true, right? You hear this a lot, that you know the crimes of passion, right? And yeah, most murder that happens, it's from people that have previously known each other, right? Right. And yeah, many times even former romantic partners, they can get to that. So yeah, even friends and relatives will get annoyed and leave you. And although you gather others with your generosity, they will not stay. Okay. So um, so practically speaking, how then, what do we do with this list? Okay. And so I was saying, we're going to now introduce the analytic meditation. Okay. So in general, they have what they call the three types of wisdom. There's a wisdom arising from hearing the teachings or reading the teachings. There's a wisdom that arises from contemplating the teachings, and then there's a wisdom arising from meditation. Okay. So when you attend these lectures, when you read various books, then you get some sense, right? You get some wisdom that comes from hearing these teachings. Now, then we can't just leave it at that. And we then have to go to the next step, contemplating. So here, we bring it to our own experience. Okay. So of this list, you sort of, go through and you analyze. You recall last time you got angry, how many of these things happened? Okay. Or if you, yeah, for like number 5, okay, when you got angry, maybe, and I hope not, but maybe you, said something or did something that then caused that relationship to end. right? Does that ever happen to you? So then when you think about it, you then say, oh, yes, that's right. When I get angry, yeah, even my friends or relatives, yeah, it can destroy relationships. Remember when my friend or my partner, yeah, I got angry, I said that thing, and then our relationship was never the same and it quickly ended. Okay. So you're trying to then sort of verify in your own life, in your own experience, uh, the the kind of hypotheses that are put out in the teachings. Okay. All right. Then, like later, when you do the actual meditation, you can meditate on the faults of anger, and then you'll go in this list, and then those things you've sort of gained in your contemplation, those small insights, then you're going to want to allow your mind to sink more deeply into it. And here, right? Okay. As opposed to the placement meditation when we were working with the breath, right? We would, or the bodily sensations or the feelings, whatever it was, the reality of that moment we were being aware of. Okay. Now, here in analytic meditation, what we're trying to do is we're trying to evoke or induce a certain mental state. Okay. So we, go through these lists. And then when we come up with that kind of conclusion, that mini realization that, oh, yes, anger is so detrimental to my life. It's causing me all these problems. Okay. Then we sort of take our foot off the gas of our analysis and we rest our mind in the conclusion. You understand? Now, that is going to, as we said, meditation is habituation, familiarization. So as we perform this kind of meditation, we are habituating our mind, we're familiarizing our mind with the faults of anger. And then, mm, uh, since our normal view is, oh, anger is good. It's good that I get angry because then, or it's good that I retaliate because I'll show this other person, I'll teach them a lesson and they won't mess with me again, right? That's not really what happens, right? Even implicitly, we're not thinking that, but that's why we retaliate, right? Someone said something nasty to me, I'm going to say something nasty back, and then they'll think twice before harming me again, right? Anyway, here we're trying to create a new habit of mind, and so by familiarizing in this list and then holding our mind in the conclusion, we then uh, yeah, over a long period of time can enact a deep change on a profound level. Okay, so first, faults of anger. So similarly, or kind of the reverse, right? So the things that are unpleasant, we have anger, we aversion, we try to push away or destroy. Then attachment is like the reverse of that. These are the things we hold to be beautiful and attractive, and then want to cling. We want to hold on to. Okay. So here, faults of attachment. That those objects of attachment, they are impermanent. They don't last. Then the contaminated object is in the nature of suffering, leading to dissatisfaction. So here, maybe it's fine to say what it does it mean for an object to be contaminated. Okay, maybe a little bit textbook definition. Um, yeah, a little bit textbook is these phenomena that arise due to karma and affliction are contaminated. Okay. So unless you have had a direct realization of emptiness, okay, unless you've had a direct realization of the ultimate nature of reality, then I hate to break it to you, but everything you've ever experienced is contaminated by karma and afflictions. Okay. So that means, therefore, all of our experiences are in the nature of suffering, leading to dissatisfaction. Okay. So even the nice uh chocolate cake or yeah, vegan ice cream on a hot day, okay, it might bring some relief, but when we say nature of suffering leading to dissatisfaction, right? That experience of the pleasant physical sensation is very tied in with number one, right? Impermanence. And just the mere fact that these pleasant experiences are impermanent in nature means they could be better, means they are in the nature of suffering leading to dissatisfaction because they do arise as a pleasant experience, but that one doesn't last. Therefore, we're disappointed at the end. Okay. All right. Then the object is not truly existent, but illusory. That's getting into the ultimate nature, right? So when we have attachment, right, then we're totally exaggerating the good qualities of that object, right? Every yeah, we think it's the best, or my partner is the best, the most beautiful woman in the world, or whatever, right? But it's actually not that way. And then the uncertainty of the fulfillment of desire, right? So although we might have that object that brings us some temporary boost, right? Therefore we get attached to it. Then um, that object we're not in full control over. It itself is impermanent. So whether it is a physical object, then whether it will continue to bring us uh, happiness in the future is uncertain because our wealth can be depleted, it can be stolen. Our friends or romantic partners, they can wake up one day and not like us anymore, leave us, right? So this brings a sort of anxiety whether we'll be able to continue to enjoy are objects of attachment. Then the other negative minds like possessiveness, anger, jealousy, pride, fear, insecurity arise. Then, right, exaggerating the importance of that object, we think, how many times do you see this in a movie? Oh, I can't live without you, right? Mm. So then, yeah, I don't mean to make light of that. Um, I've been there, right? But in that moment, right, we think that that's true. And then, mm, that person breaks up with us, and then we think we can't live without them. It can cause a lot of despair. And, even, yeah, many times, unfortunately, yeah, people do commit suicide after, their partner has left them. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was very fond of telling a story of a translator, uh, a Tibetan translator in Switzerland, who had been a very sort of senior student studying Buddhism for so long, yet uh, when his wife left him, he just fell into despair and committed suicide. Hmm. So then, seven, it keeps us in samsara, suffering endlessly, stopping the experience of true happiness. So true happiness is only coming from nirvana, attaining, uh, liberation from samsara, but it's due to our attachment to worldly kind of pleasures that we then are continuously bound in samsara, and distracts us from achieving meaningful realizations of the principles of the path. We'll get to this next week, and attaining enlightenment. So, as I like to emphasize that, these samsaric pleasures, they're not bad in and of themselves, but if you know the economic term opportunity cost, right? So if you don't, opportunity cost basically means if, like for example, if you have $1,000 to invest and you invest in whatever stock, right? Apple stock, right? That means that $1,000 you can't invest in something else. Okay. So they talk about that with, capital allocation decisions in business. But we can also think about it in terms of our time, right? If we, if we only have 2 weeks of vacation in a year, and we use that vacation to go visit our family over the holidays, that means we don't have that vacation time to go to Cancun or something, right? Okay? All right. So similarly, when we have a lot of attachment to these sensory objects, the objects of attachment, and we spend that time then pursuing them or enjoying them even, that means it's less time we have for our practice. And therefore, we should reflect. Shanideva says that all of our kind of, sensory experiences, even the pleasant ones, right? At our time of death, it'll be all like a dream, right? It'll all be like a dream. So, meaning, just like when we wake up in the morning and we sort of remember, oh, wow, I had a very pleasant dream. But in the morning when we wake up, like none of that has any essence. In the same way, whether we've, lived a life of luxury and have everything that, is valued in the kind of material world, the only thing that's going to matter at our time of death is the imprints in our mind of a virtue or non-virtue that we've accumulated. And hopefully, if we have practiced and studied well and gained some insight into, renunciation, bodhicitta, wisdom, realizing emptiness, then those imprints in the mind of those realizations will be stable such that we can continue on in our next life on the path. Okay? So, it is about time. Maybe if we have one question, I did have a bit more to say, but we'll cover it next week. No problem. Is there a question that I can address? No.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have
Yes.
one question.
Please.
Is nirvana the same as enlightenment? Are they the same?
Good question. So the answer is no. There's yeah. Okay. In the time we have, I'll say it like this. Okay. So we talk about the opposing pairs of samsara and nirvana, two Sanskrit terms. So samsara is this cycle of uncontrolled rebirth due to our karma and afflictions. Okay. Now, if samsara is caused by karma and afflictions, when we don't want to be experiencing the effect, we have to put an end to the causes. And so between karma and afflictions, the main fuel of samsara is the afflictions. Okay. And so when we, by analyzing emptiness, the ultimate nature of reality, remember how I was saying we impute this kind of exaggerated nature onto phenomena. When we discover that things don't exist in that way, then that is, by the way, what the realization of emptiness is. And then all those objects that we used to have attachment for because we thought it was truly beautiful, attractive from the side of the object, right? Our attachment will go away. Actually, all of the rest of the afflictions will go away through realizing emptiness. Okay. When we realize emptiness and then we meditate, we'll get a direct realization of emptiness, not just a conceptual one. And then as we meditate more and more about that, we'll come to a point where we've abandoned the afflictions entirely. Okay. At that point, we've achieved nirvana. Okay. But we can think of that as just the stopping of the afflictions. But the full enlightenment of a Buddha, okay, then that goes beyond that. And not only abandoning the afflictions, but developing all of the good qualities like ethical discipline, generosity, patience, loving kindness, all these qualities fully developed to their highest extent, then that's the attainment of enlightenment. Okay. Now, when we look in the historically, right, we have the Buddha. He was the only one to ordinary view being fully enlightened, right? All the rest of his disciples, like Shariputra, Moggallana, Ananda, right? They became, we can say arhats, means they've attained nirvana. They were liberated from samsara, but they didn't have the same level of realization as the Buddha. And the main kind of practical difference in their levels of realization is within the Buddhist kind of worldview, only the Buddha is omniscient, okay, all-knowing. And the practical benefit of that is being omniscient is very practical because then you're able to know other people's minds and know their kind of level, know their karma. And so you can give the teaching that's going to be most beneficial for them. You understand?
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So oh, Sasha. Yeah, please.
I just had a question, and I know you were ending, but I was just wondering, like, you were talking about the focus, the object. What would you recommend, like, when you are sitting, what that would be, or is that something you just kind of choose, or?
Right. So I think last week's video is available. So you
Okay.
can look at that. Now, the short answer is the breath. So the breath, it's a very, 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 very good for us beginners because we all are breathing. And by focusing on the breath, it is said can calm and focus the mind. Yeah. But the kind of full instructions for that will be in the last week's video.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I actually have another session starting in a couple minutes. So we'll see you next week and we'll cover the rest of the material that I intended for this week and then do a bit more. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gunnar.